How many leads were you getting before COVID, and how many leads is your agency getting now during this crisis? If you're struggling with lead generation and you're not getting the number of leads that you want, I want to invite you to watch this free workshop I did in the fall about the 4 problems that prevent most agencies from generating the type of leads that they need to scale their business. Hopefully, you get a ton of value from this because I share not only the 4 problems, but how to solve those problems. And if you're interested in this type of learning, I'm going to be running a workshop on Thursday, May 28th. I'd like to invite you to join. There'll be a link above or below this video. And if you're interested, all you need to do is either comment or reach out to me on private message, and I'm happy to give you more details. Enjoy this free content, and I hope you get a ton from it. So what I see as the 4 major challenges holding marketers back from working a lead generation system. So number 1, we haven't figured out, I'm going to use we just because collectively we're all in the same boat. If we're at that like $0, $10, $15,000 mark, we haven't figured out who our ideal client is. And our marketing is a wandering generality. And what that really means is most of us get to the 10K by saying yes to the people that come in. We're charismatic enough to develop relationships. We're usually better than average at closing sales, and we're good problem solvers. That's generally how we get into business to begin with. And so whatever problem comes up, we feel comfortable we're going to be able to tackle it. We get to that $10,000 or $15,000 mark, but it isn't because we've actually focused on solving one particular problem. We've really just said, if you have a problem, I can solve it. And so when you go into the market, you don't have a message that resonates with anyone because you're not talking to anybody specific. So that's the problem number 1. There's kind of 4 cascading problems that happen, and you may have clarity about who you want to focus on, but some of the other problems may show up that are preventing you from building your lead generation system. So this is just the framework. We haven't accepted it's our responsibility to ensure our ideal prospects know we exist, right? This isn't a very controversial statement, but very often what happens at this stage of business is we don't have a process in the business to actively grow the pond of people that are ideal prospects for us so that they know that we exist. Obviously, if someone doesn't know we exist, then they can't buy from us. I mean, that's just a statement of fact. And we need to think about that in our lead generation system. How are we going to go out and actively increase the pond of people that know that you exist for the particular service, and they're the type of client you want to work with? Next is we assume our prospects should be ready to buy the first time they hear from us or about us. And again, if you look at most marketing, whether that's marketers or that's businesses, this is true. Most people are focused on the 4% of people that are ready to buy today, and they ignore the 96% who aren't ready to buy today. And so really what I want you to get from this is to understand that if your whole marketing strategy is tied to somebody finds out about you or gets that initial outreach saying, hey, I can help you, if you don't have a system to heat them up after the fact, you only expect them to buy that first time, you're really limiting your chance of landing them as a client to the 4% who are ready to buy today. And that's hurting you in your marketing. And so, again, this is another point where I want you to understand this is your responsibility to look at your marketing through a different lens, specifically as it relates to lead generation. And so then number 4 is we underestimate the level of risk our prospects must accept to start doing business with us. Any customer that comes to you, you're likely not the first marketer that they've worked with. You're likely not the first person to tell them that you can rank them, or that you can run their Facebook ads, or that you can do their AdWords, or whatever service you're offering. They've already had big promises put in front of them, and they've probably already been let down or burnt. And so we need to really understand and empathize with our customers and how hard it is for them to say yes to you. So if your first offer to them is, hey, I charge $2,000 or $3,000 or $1,500 or $1,800 a month, you're asking them to accept a high level of risk, especially if they're not familiar with who you are and they don't view you in a certain light. So these are the core 4 problems that most people have when they come to their lead generation. And really what I want to show you is the 4 possibilities that if we start to change the way you view lead generation, you can actually find yourself in this possibility where your business is in a much better place. So you're laser focused on who your ideal prospect is, what problems they have, and where they hang out.
So your message is on point and you hit it with power, right? An example of that was today in our Facebook group. And so one of the things that I know people want to know is what are the transition points in terms of marketing services. And so when I put that message out, you can see how it activated a lot of people in the group because it's something that interests them. And so the more and more you're interacting with your market, the better you're going to be able to anticipate what message is going to resonate with them. Your business has a systematic approach to ensuring new ideal prospects are constantly discovering you and your service, right? And so really what we want to make sure is your lead generation, you have this systematic approach that says, whoever your ideal prospects are, there's something that is going on in your business every day, every week, going out and adding them to the pool of prospects that know who you are. And we need to think about that as a system because you don't want to manually be doing this. Once you hit the point where you're at $10,000 or $15,000 a month, you simply don't have the time to do this manually. You need to think about things in a systematic approach. All right, number 3 is your marketing assumes your prospects will play hard to get and you design it to seduce them. Okay, so this is really what this is the opposite, right? Right now, most people set up their marketing that, the first time they hear about them or from them, they pitch them and they expect them to buy. I need you to change your mindset to the point of saying, you're going to assume that your prospects are going to play hard to get, and you're going to design your marketing to seduce them through your marketing system. And we're going to go through how to do that in this training, in this mastermind, but I want you to have that mindset as we go through this, that really what you need to look at your marketing as is when they find out about you, you're going to seduce them through your marketing, heat them up over time so that they ultimately view you in a certain light and are ready to buy at their own pace using the seductive kind of marketing, if you want to think of it like that. You anticipate how cautious your ideal prospects will be, so you've crafted an irresistible offer to compel them to take action. Right? This is polar opposite to what most people do, which is they try to pitch their highest dollar service right away and they don't move people up through the value ladder. Even though all of us on this call have heard of the value ladder and we're familiar with it, most people, most marketers aren't using this in their marketing service. They don't give low ticket offers and then add value and move them up. And this is something that once you start to deploy this in your business, it becomes a lot easier to activate those prospects, turn them into clients, and then move them up your value ladder. So again, I'm just going to contrast this quickly so you can see them beside each other. So you've not figured out who your ideal client is, so your marketing is a wandering generality. And the opposite of that is you're laser focused on who your ideal prospect is, what problems they have, and where they hang out. So your message is on point and hits with power. And again, I want you to see that contrast where most of us operate when we're stuck versus where we need to be operating. Same thing. You haven't accepted. It's your responsibility to ensure your ideal prospects know you exist. Your business has a systematic approach ensuring new ideal prospects are constantly discovering you and your service. You assume your prospect should be ready to buy the first time they hear from you or about you. Your marketing assumes your prospects will play hard to get, and you've designed it to seduce them. And then lastly, you underestimate the level of risk your prospects must accept to start doing business with you. And then on the opposite side, you anticipate how cautious your ideal prospects will be. So you've crafted an irresistible offer to compel them to action. And now what we're going to jump into is the principles. And what the principles are things that we need to accept in terms of mindset shift for us to go from way we're operating with lead generation to how we want to operate. And so those shifts are going to change the way we view lead generation. And so we need to adopt some of these principles. And so one of them is every skill gets better with practice, right? And so we know that. I drew a little picture of a bike here, and I don't claim to be an artist, and you guys aren't paying for me to do art. So just want you to know, child with bike, they suck, right? So for those of you that have kids, child sucks on his bike when they first get on it. Then they feel scared. Then they focus. They get reps. They add time. And what ends up happening with practice is they get good, right? And so lead generation is a skill. And what I want you to see is we need to practice that skill consistently for us to get better at it. It's like every other skill. You know, some people are naturally good at things, but for the most of us, we need to practice. And what I imagine is there's not a lot of time that you guys are spending on lead generation, focused week in and week out, in order for you to get better at it. So I need you to understand the principle. Every skill gets better with focus and practice. And if we look at lead generation, there are stages. There's communicate a message to that ideal prospect. You want to capture their attention. You want to convert their mindset, and you want to compel action. And so these are stages that we're moving them through. And really, the key fundamental that I want you to get is every skill gets better with practice. Number two is all success in business comes down to two ingredients. You could be the best at SEO. You could be the best at Facebook ads, at web design. It really doesn't matter. You're not the best at anything unless you're good at marketing, right? Because nobody would know you're world class at it, right? Like, today, you can argue if you watch basketball, LeBron James, Durant, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, if nobody knows who you are, you could be better than those guys, but you're not the best in the world. You're not even part of that conversation. And so it's the same thing in marketing for us. You can't just sit in your box and say, I'm really good at SEO or I'm really good at PPC, and that's it. You have to accept that it's your responsibility to make sure those ideal prospects know that you exist and you're demonstrating that to them, because that is more than half the equation. People buy on perceived value, not actual value, right? The first time you go out and buy anything, you won't know if you like it until you buy it. And so it's really important that you accept that and internalize. In order for your business to grow, it's, yes, you need to provide a good service, but you also need to own the fact that people need to know about that service. And so that's really the key here. So, again, that visual is supposed to be someone with a loud mic. I'm not a loud person, but this is the idea that I want to plant in your head is you need to be out there promoting your service, right? And we need to build out a system to let your ideal prospects know that you exist. Once we think through that we have to do this, it becomes a lot easier for us to think about how do we want to do this, right? And there are actually really easy, simple things that we can do. And what we want to fall in love with here is the simplicity of consistency, right? All of these micro systems that we're going to talk about, nothing you're going to learn here is going to be like, wow, I never knew this. It's all going to be practical, coming together to give you these simple, consistent actions and how to get them to happen week in and week out so that people know who you are and can move through your marketing and ultimately write you a check, because you are good at what you do. You just need to get good at making sure that people know about it. All right. So principle number 3, and this again is a big one for you guys to internalize. Premium clients need to be seduced. If someone's going to pay you high dollars, it's really important that you understand that they need to be seduced. PIA, which stands for pain in the ass clients, they're commodity clients. They're ready to buy today. So the people who are going to get on a phone with you and they heard from you today and they're ready to buy today, this is literally the worst client for your business, because they're not willing to pay a premium. They look at you as a commodity, and that's what they're willing to pay. And not only are they only willing to pay a commodity price, they tend to be the biggest pains in the ass because they expect you to do custom work for them, and they don't actually view you as an expert. So they question everything. They want to micromanage everything. And you end up in a situation where you're trying to resell them all the time on the value you're delivering. And this is really an issue with your marketing. And it's really on us as marketers to pick the people we want to work with and frame the game in such a way that they come in a way that they view us in the right light, so we don't have to deal with this. So good marketing should attract and repel, right? It should attract your good clients, the people that your business is set up for, the people who view you as that premier provider. That's who your marketing should be set up to attract. And you want to repel these commodity buyers, because really they're a pain in the ass. They suck your energy and they make it really hard for you to enjoy your work and your employees to enjoy their work. So why do people pay a premium, right? And again, none of this is mind-blowing, but you need to internalize this is they need to know who you are, right? They need to like you, trust you, view you as a provider of choice. And then most importantly, they need to have certainty that you can take them from where they are to where they want to be. That's what we're always buying, is the other person's certainty. Good salespeople really are just really good at painting a visual of a future state that we want to get to. That's what they're doing. If you sit back and think about what good salespeople are doing, they're giving you the visual of the transformation. And most of the time with brands, it's an emotional transformation, right? If I'm frustrated to, the opposite of frustrated. If I'm like, depressed to I'm happy. Good brands are good at making that transformation. That's why they take celebrities and they attach it to like things that celebrity would even use. It's because we have these positive emotions related to that celebrity. So commodity buyers think of SEO, PPC, content, web design companies as the same, and they buy based on price. And so the visual here, again, a roofer, if your roof was leaking and you went to a jack of all trades, would you expect to pay more or less than a professional roofing company? And the answer is very simple. You expect to pay less. People expect generalists to charge less, and they expect specialists to charge more. And people who are willing to pay more to get their roof done are going to hire a roofing company. And we need to have our business looked at as premium and specialized to deliver an end result and have people be willing to pay that. And so it's really important that we understand that this all comes back to this. Premium clients need to be seduced, and we need to understand that if we heat them up, they'll pay us a premium. And if we only focus our business on those commodity buyers, we're doomed to have a commodity business. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this guy. His name's Robert Cialdini. He's written a couple of books. It talks about the psychology of persuasion. And so once a client says yes to a small level ask, it's easy for them to say yes to a bigger level. We all know this intuitively. It's why the saying's around that, like, it's easier to sell to an existing customer than it is to sell to a new customer. This isn't controversial. This is something you probably already know, just like as common sense. But I need you to think of this in terms of your marketing, almost like dominoes. If you knock that little domino down, it becomes much easier and it will knock that big domino down. And the way that this relates to sales is if we put a very strategic, irresistible offer in front of your ideal prospect, where there is a high perceived value and a very low or no risk for them, and they take that, when you come back after you deliver on that low offer and give them a higher offer, the level of trust is much higher, and they don't go through the same process of analysis. They don't have the same skepticism. They don't have the same defenses as they would if you come to them and offer them a $2,000 offer. And so we want to play with that in our marketing. We want to have that as part of our mental game of putting an offer in front of them. And the purpose of that offer is only to move them from prospect to client, because once they go through that transformation and get value, they will not analyze the $3,000 offer with the same level of skepticism. They will view you as someone they trust, and it will bypass that whole logic decision process that goes on for people who have like, oh, I've been burned before, I can't trust these guys. Once you've given them the reason to trust you, they're going to be way more inclined to move up that value ladder. And so this becomes important, especially when you're dealing in a focused area. You want to start activating people in your ideal prospect pool so that you can move them up to that higher level. The whole idea is if you're charging $1,000 now, it's not so that you can charge $1,000 to these people. It's so that you can charge $2,000 or $2,500, and your margins become better because you're invested in building a service custom for them. So this just says predictably irrational. First interaction, our brains are focused on, is this dangerous? Can it hurt me? Can I ignore it? And the second interaction skips this whole process. It's familiar with you, and it goes, yeah, it's familiar with you and you are safe. So there's no need to have that hyper defensive system going. So those are the four principles that if we start to bring into our marketing, it becomes a lot easier to see how we're going to get to that possibility. All right, so I'm going to go in now to some production strategies. The idea here really is to start to think about things that we can put into action as it relates. So production strategy you pull out your calendar and time block at least 3 hours per week that you're going to focus on this, right? And this is building off that concept of all skills get better with practice. We need to put time into this because there are different skill sets that are required for lead generation. Some of it is you need to test market message to see what is going to resonate with your market. And some of that just is block and tackle. It's just fundamentals. It's all about spending time. And so really, if you put 3 hours in, and I wouldn't suggest you do it in a 3 hour block, I would suggest you either block an hour and a half twice a week or 1 hour 3 times a week. I would suggest that you do it at the same time every week. And so that Monday mornings or Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings, like whatever you want to break it into, you have the time to really put some focus on this. This is what is going to change the trajectory of your business, because once you have the opportunity to bring leads in on demand, you're going to get rid of that scarcity mindset of, hey, I'm afraid to pitch my service, my core service at a higher number, right? The problem now is because you have a trickle of leads coming in, you want to convert those leads into clients because you want to grow or make up for the client that left. And so this is how we move away from that mindset. We have more leads than we need, then we don't feel that scarcity mindset. So this comes down to time blocking. Again, if you do 3 hours a week, that's 154 hours a year. Now, obviously, you're going to take some weeks off, so it'll be a little bit less, but you get the idea. This is how you're going to get those reps in and that practice. So it's important from a production standpoint that you time block. You start to think about people you admire. And really what I want you to do here is start to think of, where do you hear about them? How often do you see them, right? Start to think about how you could help your prospects find out. And the way I say this is become famous for a few, right? You don't need to be Gary Vee. You just need to have your ideal prospects know your company name or know your name as it relates to their industry. This is much easier to do once you start to identify who it is you want to serve. It doesn't matter what market it is. If you start to think about how you could become famous just for that little market, it becomes very doable. So from 0 to 10,000, it's easy to do that locally, right? From 10,000 to 30,000, you're really starting to think in terms of niches and, all right, who are the business owners in these niches? Can I identify them? Can I find them on LinkedIn? Can I find them in Facebook groups and add them as a friend? These strategies start to put people in your universe so that, you could reach out and say, hey, I focus on A, B, and C and help, people like you go from here to here. They at least start to know who you are. And that ability to make that happen on demand becomes much easier once we start to think through it. But I think if you start to look at who you follow, who you like, you'll see they have a process where they're staying in front of you, or they wouldn't be someone you admire. Right? I mean, celebrities have it a little bit different. People literally follow them around and take pictures and they keep them in front of people. And it's kind of like this game of like, it's annoying, but if people weren't following around taking pictures, you wouldn't know who they are. So what type of content could you do to help them? Just putting that in your mind to start to think about. Number 3 is the art of seduction, moving your prospects through a journey, right? So all relationships kind of progress at the pace of a slower person. You're ready for your best customer to do business with you today, right? I met my wife. I was ready to marry her like that week. But, I had to grow on her like a fungus. She wasn't quite ready for me at the same pace. So I had to move her through a sequence. For those of you that are married, probably very similar experience. It's first you want to go for coffee and you want to go for lunch, dinner, meet my friends, meet your parents. We'll keep it PG and we'll skip out some steps. And eventually you get to the point where, do you want to marry me? But it's a sequence. It's a seduction and it's a series of yeses. And the same thing happens in marketing. You communicate a message, you capture permission. So communicate a message happens to the cold market. You capture their permission by either getting them on a pixel or capturing their email address. You convert their mindset, right? And that conversion of mindset is moving you from anonymous to the point where they start to look at you as a provider of choice. You compel them to action. That action may be buy a tripwire. It may be jump on a discovery call with you. It may be, buy your core service, but you're compelling them to take some action. And it's along that buyer journey of problem to possibility that is happening. And so, another visual for that is you have to heat people up to a point where they're an 8, 9, or 10 in order for them to want to do business with you and be willing to pay a premium, right? Commodity buyer, they're ready to buy today because they don't care about you. They care about the commodity service. And so how does that happen? Know, like, trust, provider of choice. Okay, I'm willing to pay a premium. That gets heated up over time. And then last but not least is the Godfather offer. People are reluctant and skeptical when they first do business with you. Once they do business with you, they don't seem to have the same hurdles to say yes. So, David, you talked about this, how people like buy one service and then they're open to buying the other, and it's less of a sales cycle. And so this is the same concept. We just need to start to think about how can we activate those prospects even quicker. Because right now you only have that opportunity with the people you sold. Because they bought $1,000 a month service from you, they feel confident buying another $1,000 a month service. Is there something that we can do to activate? And I'm just planting the seed here. I'm going to actually give you tactically how to do this in your niche in a very strategic way. So don't worry about, I'm not expecting you to come up with it on the spot. I just want you to start to think about how much more effective it would be if instead of only selling to the 10 clients you have, you are able to turn 50 prospects a month into low service buyers, and 5 of those bought your core service. That would start to create momentum. And then I just had let this psychology, use the psychology to our advantage to make it easy for your prospects to test you out. Okay, so that's really the production strategy. The problems, we have not figured out who our ideal clients are. So our marketing is a wandering generality. We haven't accepted it as our responsibility to ensure our ideal prospects know we exist. We assume our prospects should be ready to buy the first time they hear from us or about us. And we underestimate the level of risk our prospects must accept to start doing business with us. The possibilities, you're laser focused on who your ideal prospect is, what problems they have, and where they hang out. So your message is on point and hits with power. Your business has a systematic approach to ensuring your ideal prospects are constantly seeing your content and aware of your service. And really, I change this, just constantly being added, right? So you're constantly adding those prospects to your pool, so it's always growing. Number 3, your marketing assumes your prospects will play hard to get, and you're designed it to seduce them. You anticipate how cautious your ideal prospects will be, so you've crafted an irresistible offer. And so the principles are every skill gets better with focus and practice. All success in business comes down to a good product, service, and marketing. So it's not enough just a good product or service. You need to market it. You need to promote it. Premium clients need to be seduced. Pain in the ass clients come ready to buy. Once a client says yes to small ask, it's easy to say yes to bigger engagements. The production is focus and discipline. That's really time blocking and putting it into your calendar. And the reality on that is everything in your business that is going to help your business grow is likely never going to be urgent until you make it urgent. And so the only way you're going to make it urgent and say it has to be done this week is time blocking. And so you need almost like a habitual lifestyle as it relates to lead generation, where you're saying, this is urgent this week because I'm making it urgent. And you need to make it so that you never cut in on that time, because you need to continuously build these systems into your business. So focus and discipline is that time blocking. Famous for a few is just adding the people to your pond. Premium clients play hard to get, and then leverage brain psychology and make that first irresistible offer. So the path is what to get done this week. Look at your business today and identify what is missing in your lead generation system to really start to dial up the numbers of qualified ideal clients coming to your business. We kind of asked these questions as we were going along. But again, if you can take some time to think through some ideas during the course of the week, and here are the 4 actions. Do you have time devoted to lead gen every week? If not, time block, minimum of 3 hours. So if you're going to work Mondays for an hour and a half and Wednesdays for an hour and a half, when? Have some accountability. The reality is, if you want to get results, this is what you need to do. So I encourage you to take action on it. Number 2, start to think about how you can encourage more prospects to discover you and your business. What can you do? Pick any niche. It doesn't really matter What are some things that you could envision doing to actually get people to be able to see you? And I mentioned LinkedIn and I mentioned Facebook, friending people. Those are two, but there are literally dozens. How can you actively get people to know that you exist? Number three, I'm going to call the path. So fill in an idea for each of the 5 stages of marketing. Clarify ideal client, communicate a message, capture permission, convert mindset, compel action. And so I'm just going to talk through this really quickly. So clarify your ideal client, communicate messages to the cold market. So what are some ideas you could come up with in terms of pulling together content? Capture permission is really, where you're going to get their email address or put them on a pixel. And then convert mindset is starting to think through how you would get people heated up, right? Where they would know, like, and trust you, view you as a provider of choice, some ideas. And then compel action is, are you going to invite them to purchase a tripwire? Are you going to get them on a discovery call? This is just starting to visualize your marketing at stages. That's all you're trying to do here. There's no right or wrong. It's just starting to think through this process of systematically moving them through. Or seducing them through, if you want to keep the same terminology. And then last is come up with an offer you can make to your prospects that would be irresistible to them, and don't discount your core offer. So I'm not a believer in ever offering discounts on core services. So you want to figure out or start to think about things that you could do that people would consider perceived as high value, but would be easy for you to deploy. You could do at scale, and you could offer a risk reversal because it is not a big risk for you to activate them, right? You don't want to lose money on this, but you're not necessarily trying to make money on this. This is all about activating prospects into clients, and you want to start to think through that.
Thanks for checking out this workshop on the 4 challenges that most marketing agencies have in terms of lead generation and how to solve those challenges. If you enjoy this type of content, I'm going to be hosting a workshop on Thursday, May 28th at 1 p.m. I'd like to invite you to join us. It's just $99, and we're going to be talking about how to put the power of systems, processes, and tasks to use in your business so that you can set your company up for the type of growth that you want to have here in 2020 and forward. So again, if you'd like to join, just comment above or below this video or send me a private message. I'm happy to give you the details of the workshop. Again, it's Thursday, May 28th at 1 p.m. and we'd love to have you join.